Welcome. If you have a thirst for history, culture, or science, you're in the right place.
Have you ever wondered how many black individuals have been misrepresented or overlooked in history books? This, dear friends, is the result of a phenomenon known as whitewashing, a subtle yet pervasive process that has, over time, distorted our understanding of history. Whitewashing has a way of downplaying, ignoring, or misrepresenting the contributions of black individuals, painting an incomplete picture of our collective past. It's like looking at a beautiful tapestry with half the colors missing. In today's discourse, we will try to add some of those missing colors back into our historical tapestry. We will explore the stories and achievements of 20 black individuals whose contributions have been overlooked or misrepresented. From the ancient sands of Egypt to the modern streets of America, these individuals have left indelible marks on our world. As we delve into these stories, remember that history, as we know it, is often a matter of perspective. Let us take a journey back to ancient times, where some of the first instances of this phenomenon can be seen. We start with the Queen of ancient Egypt, Nefertiti. Despite evidence suggesting a Nubian or African origin, she's often portrayed as lighter-skinned in historical depictions. Nefertiti, whose name means "the beautiful one has come forth," was an influential queen. Her reign was marked by unprecedented wealth and artistic growth, yet her African roots are often downplayed or misrepresented. Let's travel to the end of the pharaonic era, where we encounter Cleopatra. Born in Egypt, Cleopatra was of Greek descent, but her cultural immersion and reign in Egypt were significant. However, she is often depicted as white in historical art and films, overlooking her true Egyptian identity. Crossing the Mediterranean, we meet the formidable Carthaginian general, Hannibal Barca. Known for his audacious crossing of the Alps with war elephants, Hannibal is a symbol of African military might. Yet, despite his North African origins, he is often depicted as white. Our journey takes us back to North Africa, where we meet St. Augustine of Hippo. A profoundly influential Christian theologian, his writings continue to shape Christian thought. Yet Augustine, a North African, is sometimes portrayed with European features in historical art, a stark deviation from his actual African heritage. These early examples from antiquity reveal a consistent pattern of whitewashing, where the African origins and identities of these historical figures are downplayed or misrepresented. This phenomenon is not just a matter of skin color in artistic depictions. It reflects a broader issue of erasing or minimizing the contributions of black individuals and cultures in the historical narrative. These early examples set a precedent for the erasure and misrepresentation of black individuals in history. As we'll see in the following scenes, this trend continues through the Middle Ages to the modern era. But for now, let's pause and reflect on the importance of reclaiming these historical narratives and honoring the true heritage of these influential figures. As we move into the Middle Ages and the early modern period, the trend continues. Our journey takes us first to Ludwig van Beethoven, a composer whose symphonies still resonate in concert halls today. There is a simmering debate about his racial background, with some scholars positing that he had African ancestry. Despite this, historical portraits often depict him with European features, a discrepancy that serves to whitewash his possible African heritage. Next, we turn to Alessandro de' Medici, the Duke of Florence in the 16th century. He was the first Duke of Florence and ruled the city during a period of great cultural and artistic flourishing. His mother was an enslaved African woman, making him one of the first African-European rulers in Western history. Yet his African features are often downplayed in portraits, a subtle form of historical whitewashing. From Italy, our journey takes us to Russia and the life of Alexander Pushkin, often referred to as the father of Russian literature. Pushkin had African ancestry through his maternal great-grandfather, an African noble who served under Peter the Great. Despite this, his image is sometimes whitewashed in portraits, obscuring his African heritage. We then journey to West Africa and the Mali Empire, where Mansa Musa, one of the wealthiest people in history, reigned in the 14th century. However, he is sometimes depicted as lighter-skinned in historical representations, a clear example of whitewashing. Our final stop in this period is in 18th century England, with Dido Elizabeth Bell, the mixed-race daughter of an enslaved African woman and a British naval officer. Belle's story has been somewhat obscured in history, her contributions overlooked, and her African heritage often downplayed. The legacy of these influential figures is a testament to the resilience and accomplishments of Black individuals throughout history. Their stories serve as powerful reminders that history is multifaceted, and we must strive for a fuller, more inclusive understanding of the past. In more recent history, the trend of whitewashing persists. We find Joseph Bologna, an accomplished composer and swordsman, often overlooked in classical music history. His compositions were celebrated, but his African ancestry rarely mentioned, while his European contemporaries were lavishly praised. Then there's Sarah Bartman, a woman exploited and exhibited in 19th century Europe. Her narrative is frequently misrepresented, focusing on her physical attributes rather than her humanity. Similarly, the contributions of Bass Reeves, a legendary African-American lawman, are often overshadowed in Western history, eclipsed by tales of his white counterparts. Next, we find Queen Charlotte, the wife of King George III. Despite strong evidence suggesting her African ancestry, historical portrayals often downplay or downright ignore this aspect of her identity. Yasuke, an African who served as a samurai in Japan, is another example of a figure largely absent from mainstream history books. Turning to the New World, Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable, the Haitian-French explorer, is often overlooked in discussions about the founding of Chicago, despite his significant contributions. Similarly, John Horse, a leader of the Black Seminoles, is frequently overlooked in discussions of Native American history, despite his pivotal role. Matthew Henson, who accompanied Robert Peary to the North Pole, received less recognition for his contributions, his name often taking a back seat to Peary's in history books. Bayard Rustin, an openly gay African-American, played a key role in organizing the 1963 March on Washington, yet his contributions are often overshadowed due to his sexuality and race. Mary Seacole, despite her significant contributions to nursing during the Crimean War, is often overshadowed by Florence Nightingale. Lastly, we have Claudette Colvin, a young African-American woman who refused to give up her seat on a public bus in Montgomery, Alabama, 9 months before Rosa Parks, yet her act of defiance is less known. Despite these challenges in representation, these individuals have left an indelible mark on history. The stories of these 20 individuals are just a fraction of the countless Black figures who have been overlooked or misrepresented in history. From ancient rulers to modern innovators, their contributions have shaped our world in profound ways. Yet their true stories are often concealed behind the veil of whitewashing. Correct representation in history is not just a matter of accuracy, it's a matter of justice. By acknowledging and learning about these individuals, we can begin to correct the narrative and give credit where credit is due.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, smash the like button and subscribe.